afternoon, everyone. I hope you're doing well. My name is Ahlan. I am the reading teacher for Exeter level. And today we're going to start a new unit from our book, Skillful 3. So, go to your page 98-99 from your book. And let's try to take a look at this picture actually. As you can see here, from this picture, you can see some workers are covered 100%, wearing masks, trying to use some alcohol to disinfect actually the subway. Actually, as you know, nowadays we are suffering from coronavirus pandemic, and we are seeing this now every day in trains, in the buses, metrobus, and every day. So I think today our lesson will be more interesting. So let's start it. First of all, let's check our lesson plan. We have like a video, but before watching the video, we are going to start with the vocabulary. And I want you to write down this vocabulary on your vocabulary notebook. While watching, we have some questions to deal with. Pre-reading, we are going also to check some vocabulary preview. And while reading, some questions also to try to skim and scan our text. And finally, we are going to highlight some new vocabulary. Let's start. So, before you watch, here is some vocabulary. First one is bacteria. Guys, what do you know? What is bacteria actually? Actually, it's a noun. And the bacteria is the smallest living thing that can cause death or illness. So, write down this new vocabulary, please. So, actually, it's a microscopic organisms that can cause disease or death. This is a new keyword actually. Move on now to the second one. Inject. Actually, inject is a verb. The noun is injection. And when we inject, it means like we put something like a substance or drugs into someone's body using a syringe or a needle. So inject, it's to introduce something into the body using a needle and syringe. For example, when you are sick, you should go to the doctor or to the emergency. First thing they will do, they will inject you with a substance to make you feel well. Moving now to the third vocabulary, we have sterile. Actually, this is new for you, I know. It's a new adjective. Actually, sterile, it means like, let me give you like an example. For example, we have like a couple who are recently married or wherever, and unfortunately, the woman or the husband cannot have kids. They cannot produce kids. We call them sterile. So sterile, it's someone or something that cannot or not able to produce or to reproduce. Moving now to the fourth vocabulary, suppress. Actually, suppress, it could be like a noun and it could be like a verb also. Suppress is the action of stopping or preventing something to develop or to grow or to happen. Like now, our governments around the world are trying to suppress the coronavirus from spreading around the world. So suppress means like stop physical process from happening, developing or growing up. Don't forget, developing and growing are the same, like synonyms words, okay? Moving now to the questions before the video. So try to skim quickly these questions. For example, the first one, the mosquito eggs are injected with bacteria. The second one, the male mosquitoes kill the female mosquitoes. As you can see here, just from skimming or try to read, from just reading these questions, you may have an idea about the video that you are going to watch. The third one is, each researcher can inject 200 eggs with bacteria a day. See? So you are now focusing on what you should catch from the video that you are going to watch. And last thing, researchers in Charzai have reduced the mosquito population by 90%. So I think you are ready now to watch the video. Just try to focus on what you need to catch.
The world's largest mosquito factory in China breeds millions of insects a week in the fight against the spread of diseases like dengue and Zika. The technology, developed by Professor Jiang Ji, involves injecting mosquito eggs with a bacteria.
If the male mosquito carries this bacteria, they mate with a female and make the female sterile. However, if the female carries the bacteria, they are able to suppress diseases such as Zika, dengue, and yellow fever replicating in the mosquito body. Therefore, they reduce the potential for the mosquito to spread the disease.
Xi started his work in 2012, and last year he released 3 million male mosquitoes. Mosquito eggs are collected from cages containing 5,000 females and 1,600 males, and then injected with the bacteria. A researcher can inject around 200 eggs a day. The male mosquitoes are then released. On the island of Shazai, 1.5 million mosquitoes are released every week. Xi said that the mosquito population has been reduced by 90%. Liang Juntian, who has lived in the village for 6 decades, said the process was so effective he didn't have to sleep with a mosquito net any longer.
We used to have a lot of mosquitoes in the past. Back then, some people were worried that if mosquitoes were released here, we would get even more. But we have far fewer now.
Professor Xi said that several countries had expressed interest in the technology, especially Brazil and Mexico.
So going back to our questions, I think that you have an idea about what the video was about. It was about mosquito illnesses, and actually the researchers here, he was like saying that they are trying to inject the male mosquito in order to make the female mosquito sterile. It means not able to produce any illnesses or any disease. So let's go back to our questions. So for the first statement, the mosquito eggs are injected with bacteria. Actually, is it true? Yes, it's true. It's already mentioned in the video when we started. Researchers, he said that the mosquito eggs are injected with bacteria to prevent the disease from spreading around. What about the second statement, guys? The male mosquitoes kill the female mosquitoes. Actually, it's not true, it's false, because the male mosquito will just make the female mosquito sterile, not able to produce. What about the third statement? Each researcher can inject 200 eggs with bacteria a day. It's true, this is the technique that they are using it now as a researchers to suppress spreading the virus or the disease transmitted by mosquitoes. And the last statement is researchers in Charzai have reduced the mosquito population by 90%, and it's true as the statistics showed in the video. So I hope you like the video. It's kind of interesting. It's something new about how researchers are trying to find a technique to reduce spreading or to suppress the spread of any viruses or disease. Now let's move to the vocabulary preview, which is more important here. So guys, first of all, let's try to have an idea about this new vocabulary, and I want you to add it to your vocabulary notebook. So the first one, associate. Actually, associate here is a verb. The noun is association. Associate, it means to make a connection between two people or two things. Effective. Effective actually is an adjective. Effective, it means when something gives a good result, a result that was needed or were needed. What about gather? Gather actually, it's a verb, yes, and it's the synonym word for to collect. So we can gather data, we can gather information, we can gather things into one group or into different groups. What about infected? Actually, infected, it's also an adjective, and infected means that people or someone can get affected by a disease or an illness, by a harmful thing. Moving now to this word, major. We all know it, we have seen it before. Major, it means something important, and the opposite of it is like minor. We know that, right, guys? What about polluted? Polluted, it's also an adjective. Polluted, it means to describe something not clear, something very dirty, and can cause disease and illness also, like polluted air or polluted water. What about prove, guys? Actually, prove, it's the synonym word for evidence. Like, for example, in the crime scene, the police will look for any proofs or evidence to catch the criminal. Right? What about the last word, supply? Supply actually could be like a noun, and it could be like a verb. Supply is the action of providing something really needed. So now you have an idea about all these words, all this new vocabulary. Let's try to do this activity. But first of all, I will give you like 20 seconds to look, and we will do it together, like always. So your time is up. Let's start with the first one. So there is, that shows that the disease spread through the air. We have this word, shows. Actually, it's a keyword. It can give us a hint of which word we need here. We have statistic shows, proves shows, and evidence shows. So actually the perfect verb or the perfect word for this sentence is there is a proof that shows that the disease spread through the air. What about the second one? So we have an article here, of fresh water is essential. It means it's important. To avoid, it's actually to prevent disease. So for the second one, it goes with supply. Yani, supply, it means the needed amount of something. A supply of a fresh water is essential to avoid disease. In case we don't have much water, we cannot prevent disease. Like for now, with coronavirus, we are trying to prevent having or catching coronavirus by washing our hands with water. What about the third one, guys? We have many people, we don't have the verb here. The verb is missing. Many people, malaria with long periods of rainfall. We have associate as a verb, gather as a verb. So actually associate goes with the third one. Many people associate, it means they make connection between malaria and long periods of rainfall. They think that they can catch malaria from this long periods of rainfall. What about fourth one? So we have the subject, we have the verb, and we have the noun clause. So we need actually an adjective. Yes. So polluted air can cause a number of health problems. Great. Perfect. What about number 5, guys? Antibiotics are the most treatment for the illness. Also here we need an adjective. So actually we have seen the most, superlative, and let's go for the most effective. It means that when we use antibiotics, it could really help us to defend or to protect our body from illnesses. It's a good treatment, an effective treatment. It gives a good result. What about now number 6? Over 10,000 people were, we need a verb here, by the disease. And actually this is a passive voice. You have seen it before in the main course. So over 10,000 people were infected, yes, by the disease, correct. It means they were affected actually by the disease or by this harmful illness. Number 7, heart disease is a major, it's an important, or it's the first cause of death worldwide. And the last thing, scientists are trying to, we need a verb here, we still have gather, we have also this keyword data. So when you see it, you have to know that you have to use the verb collect or gather data. So the last thing is scientists are trying to gather data together to test their theory. So I hope that you enjoyed this activity, and I hope that you write down your new vocabulary on your vocabulary notebook. Let's now move to our text. Actually, our text is about fighting cholera. Fighting cholera, it's like to try to avoid or to prevent catching cholera, or to do anything just to prevent this spread of cholera, like we are doing now, like all the countries are doing, to try to suppress, this is a new word, we have seen it today, to suppress the spread of coronavirus. So first of all, let's start with the first paragraph. As you can see, I have like highlighted some new vocabulary for you to make for you skimming and scanning easier. So first of all, I will give you like 30 seconds before moving to our questions. Try to skim to have an idea about it, and try actually to look for the cause of cholera and the effects of it, and also how it could be treated. So as I told you, focus on these highlighted words. So your time will start now, 30 seconds. You can skim. So your time is up. So let's move to the questions. What is the cause of cholera? Actually, starting from the first sentences, you can see that the writer just gave us the meaning of cholera, the concept, the definition of cholera concept. As you can see, he said, cholera is a disease that is transmitted by drinking water contaminated with bacteria. So as you can see here, drinking water contaminated or dirty with bacteria can actually cause cholera. So this is the cause of cholera. Also, let's look now for the effects of cholera, and I have already highlighted for you some keywords. You can just know that this means the effect or the result of cholera. Actually, we have leads to and result. We always use them to show the result or the effect of something. So actually the effect here, it leads to diarrhea. It means like you can have a stomach ache, you can like eat but you will vomit many times. Also it can result in high level of dehydration. Dehydration, it means when you feel like your body is so dry and you're not having you're not drinking much amount of water. Let's move now to the to the second part of the second question. How can cholera be treated? And I highlighted for you actually the key word. Sometimes I always tell you in our class, guys, try to skim your questions, try to look for the keywords. It could be easier for you to find the answer. It could be easier to make make skimming easier for you to look and to find out the answers. So as I told you, I highlighted for you treated. So here you can find your answer. So these days the disease can successfully be treated provided that drinking water with added salt is consumed. So this is the way how people previously treated cholera disease. Moving now to let's check the vocabulary that we found here in the paragraph 1. We have contaminated, which is a new vocabulary for you guys. So contaminated, it's an adjective. It means to make a substance or a place dirty or no longer pure by adding a substance that is dangerous or carry disease. So you all know that now that contaminated is something really dirty and can really harm us, like water, contaminated water, for example. Moving now to paragraph 2. Also, I highlighted some new vocabulary for you. We're gonna see it after. And you have to skim for 30 seconds. Try to tell me what it could be the topic of this paragraph actually. So you have like 30 seconds. Your time is up. So as you can see here guys, I highlighted for you during the first industrial revolution. So this is like a time marker. Here the writer is trying to tell us like a short story about cholera and how it started. As you can see, I highlighted also for you the verb, so you can have really an idea about the topic for this paragraph. So here actually the writer is trying to tell us when and how cholera started and spread. So cholera started during the first industrial revolution and it started to become a bigger killer. We are using here the superlative. It means it's really important and really getting so dangerous. And he's telling us also that this cholera can be transported or transmitted between people who are trying to buy and sell things. Also guys, so this is the answer. Answer is cholera during the first industrial revolution. It has started. It was the outbreak of cholera. So going back to the paragraph 2, I highlighted for you this new vocabulary, outbreak. Outbreak actually it means the sudden start or the unexpected start of an event, which is unpleasant event like war, violence or disease, like the outbreaks of coronavirus nowadays. Also I have this new word for you, write it down, a pandemic. A pandemic actually means a disease that spreads over a whole country or the whole world. So we can actually nowadays call coronavirus as a pandemic since it's spreading rapidly and very fast around the world. So guys, I hope that you enjoyed today's lesson. I will just finish with a small or short homework for you for our online lessons. So just check page 101 and we will see it together in our Zoom meetings. Thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoyed today our lesson. Stay safe and sound and see you next week.